Welcome to this episode of our program Daily Debate. As usual, we will be discussing an important file. Today we'll be speaking about education and the efforts exerted by the government in order to upgrade the education system in order to cope with the challenges and opportunities, give opportunities that could cope with the requirements of the government and with the requests or demands of what the state is needed for. This is part definitely of the 2030 vision or Egyptian vision for the sustainable development. It's also part of the leadership initiatives to upgrade or to invest in the human capital that we have, particularly this very important segment in the Egyptian society. We'll be speaking about that and more in our episode. Before we delve into our discussion, let me have a quick look on the top stories of the day tonight. And President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held a meeting on Monday with visiting Japanese Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi, where he praised the Egyptian-Japanese strong and friendly relations. President al-Sisi stressed Egypt's keenness to expand horizons of joint cooperation in various domains, especially developmental, economic and investments fields, and to enlarge Japanese investments in several sectors. On his part, the Japanese minister asserted that Japan is looking forward to boost ties with Egypt and to enhance political consultations regarding Egypt's prominent role in the region and the Middle East. The meeting tackled a number of regional and international files of mutual concerns and means of facing terrorism and extremism ideologies, as well as the latest developments in the Gaza Strip and in the Palestinian cause. Earlier, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry held talks with the Japanese Foreign Minister. The talks covered means of boosting bilateral relations as well as issues of mutual concern, and covered coordinating efforts to achieve stability and diffuse crises in the region, as well as freeing the world of nuclear weapons. The ministers discussed means of supporting development programs in Africa. After the talks, the two ministers held a joint press conference. Speaking at the press conference, Shoukry expressed appreciation to Japan's role in settling region conflicts. He also congratulated Japan on successfully holding the Olympic Games. On his part, the Japanese Foreign Minister said that the talks were fruitful and covered issues of mutual concerns and expressed concern on the recent developments in Afghanistan. He also praised coordinating efforts with Egypt on curbing the coronavirus pandemic. The minister said that his country is determined to enhance cooperation and coordination with Egypt in projects in the Suez Canal economic zone. Right, moving on to our episode and starting with the topic of tonight. With our report, or first let's see this report on new projects for developing education provided through international cooperation. Let's watch.
International cooperation is set to start a multilateral cooperation development financing strategy worth $2.36 billion, channeled into 36 projects across 74 locations all over Egypt to achieve the developing education and scientific research strategy and to implement Sustainable Development Goal 4th, quality education. According to the official development assistance mapping to the SDGs, 15 development partners provided funds worth $2.36 billion, representing 9.2% of the current development financing portfolio. The secured funding reflects Egypt's commitment to developing education, including scientific research, and help youth to be competitive through the job market. It also emphasized the importance of international partnerships in supporting the national development agenda. The multilateral development partners contributed in these funds are the European Union, the World Bank Group, the Islamic Development Bank, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the United Nations Children's Fund, the World Food Programme, and the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. This is in addition to joint cooperation between Egypt and Japan, China, the Saudi Fund for Development, the United States, South Korea, Germany, Canada, and the Abu Dhabi Fund for Development. The development funds contribute to the comprehensive national strategy for the development of pre-university education. Minister of International Cooperation Rani Al-Mashot said that within the framework of the ministry's keenness to consolidate the principles of transparency and governance and enhance communication with the people, the ODA SDG map allows participation of all projects implemented in various sectors. The map promotes transparent and effective communication with stakeholders and citizens to learn about the national development efforts made through international partnerships.
Right, welcome back and to our topic of tonight. Let me first welcome our guest, Dr. Mohamed Kordi, Professor of Chemistry. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Pleased to meet you.
Thank you so much. And as a professor at the higher education system, let me take your reading to measures and steps taken by the government in order to upgrade the education system.
Well, of course, those efforts started a few years ago, I would say more than 5 years ago, when the government has invested a lot in, say, establishing new universities and also upgrading the current universities, our current system of higher education. We have furiously joined high-ranking organizations, so our universities will be aligned with the majority of the universities around the world. Our works will be, obvious for everyone around the world also. What are we working on? What is our current education system? How it looks like? And this is all for the benefit of our young generation who would like to find a new job market when they graduated from those universities.
Dr. Kordi, in 2018, President Sisi has declared that year the year for education. Mm-hmm. And that really reflected how the leadership is so keen on this particular sector. How do you find that? How is that important, or how education has become of great importance to our sustainable development vision, and how are we investing in human capitals from that perspective?
Right. So that's very important actually to put this into our focus, because this is an investment in our future. Okay, and all the countries around us, those that have been, or those who started working on this early on in the 80s and the 90s, now they are developing countries already. So more than, I would say, 80% of the development that we can achieve is going to be through our human capital. And giving our young generations a better education, and education that is oriented quite well towards the sustainable development goals, is the key to realize this future.
Yes, indeed. But how are we investing in our human capitals from this perspective? Okay,
so we have already upgraded our curricula, so that the curriculum that's being taught to the university students is upgraded, and it is being accredited through accreditation bodies in many organizations. Those accrediting body come and check on the curriculum, how it's being taught, if the process of teaching is aligned with the modern technologies and modern ways of teaching, and also if that curricula is updated and it's aligned with the market, or the job market. That's one aspect. And another aspect is to incentivize research teamed with education. We are now very keen on putting our students into a hands-on experience. So they are not only learning through memorization and things like that, they are actually involved by hands-on experience for research that is teamed up with the education.
Right. 3 tracks the government has been applying. One is partner or making partners with world universities, very renowned names worldwide. This is one track. Second is finding proper funds from the international funding bodies in order to be able to put some more fund to such a vital sector. And a third track is applying new kind of technological universities or faculties.
Right.
And those two tracks that have been applied throughout the past few years in order to take or get what we need from our children for the coming stage.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell me more about the three tracks.
Okay, so teaming up with leading universities around the world is actually it's jump-starting our system. So those universities have already established their curricula, they established the method of teaching, they are well aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, and so by teaming up with those universities, we are putting our students on a fast track to excellence. Okay. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. This whole process has been already established and has been investigated throughout the years, especially for those very renowned universities. So definitely teaming up with them is I would say, a best decision to be taken so that we get our university and our students from day one aligned with what the international market in education looks like.
And that's the first track. And if I may here also discuss this issue, how are we, for an instance, we've been making partners with universities from Britain, from Germany, from Japan,
yes.
United States, many countries actually. How are those partners, or how are we trying to get the utmost benefit of partnering with those partners?
Yeah. So we'll say at the past, our students used to travel abroad to get this kind of education.
Indeed.
And this is a very limited number. Whatever you try, it's a very limited number of students who can travel abroad to get this kind of education. And then at the end, they might not return back to Egypt to, participate in our dreams for the 2030s. And so the key here is to actually build those universities at home, expose more students to this kind of atmosphere, and also generate local market of industries and companies that can benefit from the output of this kind of education. So by what we're doing here is actually we are implementing the system inside Egypt instead of exporting our human capital outside to get educated, and maybe not they come back to Egypt.
Can their curriculum or curriculums, because really benefit our education system? How are we benefiting from an international way of education?
Okay, so there are two parts of this. The first is the methodology. So this is regardless of what the curriculum is, there is some kind of methodology of teaching, methodology of assessment of the process of, so is the process really working or not working? Are the students getting better into the system or not? So this whole process itself is what is the core of accreditation, of accrediting the process. So that's talking about the process. So establishing a process is a very essential key for success. And besides that would be the curriculum and the disciplines that are being opened. So the disciplines are going to be aligned or dedicated by our market need. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing is not to duplicate what we already have. Okay, so it doesn't really make much sense of duplicating disciplines that we already saturated in or we have. Or at least when we open such disciplines, they're going to be with so much different flavor. So there is something missing into current education that we are establishing another parallel track to fulfill those kind of missing parts. So that's what I say, it's the process and the curricula. So the curricula and the disciplines are mostly new, and if not new, there is going to be in a different perspective. They are being taught in a different perspective.
A second track is the funds. And here, the Ministry of International Cooperation started a multilateral cooperation development financing strategy. But that is the local one. I mean, those are efforts exerted by the governments worth $2.36 billion, channeled into 36 projects across 74 locations all over Egypt. How do you find that? I mean, how do we as we are trying to fund or to find the proper funds for such a service, plus definitely approaching other international organizations in order to open channels with them, how would that reflect on the education system?
Okay, definitely good education costs a lot. Okay, so you need lots of material, you need human capital, you need professors, you need faculty, you need the labs. So definitely this kind of education is not cheap and it's not coming for free. So there needs to be a price to be paid for this type of education. And everyone should know that this is an investment. It's a better investment than investing in any other kind of investment, by investing in yourself or in human capital. So I hope that we will realize this, and we are actually on track to propagate this across our population, that this kind of investment is so much worth it. And you invest for a limited number of years, like 4 or 5 years, the span of the undergraduate certificates, and then the payoff is for your life. It's for the end of your life. You are getting in a better career or in a better position in the society. So that's, I think the population needs to realize that, yes, this is a worth investment, and the government has done its job in trying to secure those kind of funds. Yeah, sure, we should actually look up for more international exposure and team up with more international partners in order to realize this, but also internally we should, I think, participate in this.
The third track is taking new, very technical faculties. For instance, my son has entered a very new, the first maybe in Egypt, biomedical informatics.
Informatics, yeah, bioinformatics.
Yes, the nanotechnology and all these, I mean, sectors. Those are very new, very sophisticated, very technical and specialized universities. How do you find those specializations, and how are they reflecting on how our children benefit in their career? And something that I myself would like to know, what kind of career is awaiting those children in the future?
When they graduate, yes. Okay, so those kind of disciplines are very new, and I would say it's also internationally. That's not to Egypt only. So those kind of colleges or majors are being opened in many other universities around the world, and in the last few years. That wasn't really something that was for a long time. But the reason for this is because there is a job market for this, and there is a big need for this kind of disciplines. Science is always moving forward, and we find ourselves, like, if we stick to the traditional way of teaching and schools that we have, that there are other disciplines that are not covered by any one of those schools. So it's either you mix things together, or you take one certificate and then you go for another one, like, say, probably if you want to run a hospital, you better be a doctor, but you also better know how to run a big organization. So how are you going to do this kind of job? So people most likely tend to take, instead of just one type of certificate, 2 or 3 probably. So those kind of colleges are there to provide the need for the future, because there is a big need for those kind of disciplines now, and it's going to be growing into the future. The key here is either the students themselves, when they graduate, they should be able to be an entrepreneurs. So they should be able to open the business themselves, or team up with their colleagues to make up a company or an institution that work on this kind of projects.
Right. Before we move on with our discussion, let's first, since we are speaking about children, opportunities and all this, so let's have this report on Egypt Education 2030 Challenges, Opportunities and International Cooperation. Let's watch.
Egypt's Vision 2030 aims at providing education and training to everyone at high quality, without discrimination and within an efficient, just, fair and sustainable institutional system that focuses on students and trainees who are able to think and use technology. Minister of Education Dr. Tariq Shawki said the 2030 vision includes improving the quality of education to meet the international standards. The education process is of common responsibility, and the society has to be ready to accept development in order to guarantee high-quality graduates. Egypt Vision 2030 is a national agenda launched in February 2016 that reflects the state's long-term strategic plan to achieve sustainable development principles and objectives on all domains. It is based on the principles of comprehensive sustainable development and balanced regional development that reflects on the economic, social, and environmental dimensions. Believing that these strategies are living documents, the Egyptian government upgraded its sustainable development agenda at the beginning of 2018 with the participation of all stakeholders from development partners to keep pace with changes in the local, regional, and global context. It focuses on addressing and overlapping of all issues from the perspective of the three dimensions of sustainable development. Also on improving the quality of life of the Egyptian citizens and improving their standard of living in various aspects of life by ensuring the consolidation of the principles of justice, social inclusion, and the participation of all citizens in political and social life. This comes in conjunction with high, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, enhancing investment in human beings and building their creativity by promoting increased knowledge, innovation, and scientific research in all areas.